The international worldwisdomwell.com brings you this carefully curated book of wisdom exploring the long history of human suffering as part of the growing World Wisdom Well collection. Introduction. Welcome to a journey through the annals of human history, where we delve into the complex tapestry of suffering that has woven its way through civilizations, epochs, and continents. In this exploration, we will navigate the depths of human experience, tracing the origins, manifestations, and transformations of suffering across time. Through the lens of history, we will seek to understand the myriad factors that have shaped and perpetuated human suffering, as well as the resilience and capacity for hope that have endured in the face of adversity. Chapter 1. The Dawn of Suffering. In the distant epochs of human history, our ancestors navigated a world vastly different from our own. Picture, if you will, a landscape teeming with towering beasts, vast expanses of untamed wilderness, and the ever-present spectre of danger lurking around every corner. Prehistoric humans were thrust into this unforgiving environment, where survival was a daily struggle against the elements and the relentless pursuit of sustenance. The earliest humans were hunter-gatherers, nomadic bands of individuals who roamed the earth in search of food, shelter, and safety. Life in the Paleolithic era was harsh and unforgiving, as our ancestors contended with predatory animals, harsh climates, and the constant threat of starvation. Every day brought with it new challenges and dangers, from navigating treacherous terrain to fending off fierce competitors for limited resources. Yet amid the harshness of their existence, our ancient ancestors also demonstrated remarkable resilience and ingenuity. Over time, they developed tools and techniques to aid them in their struggle for survival, from simple stone implements to more sophisticated hunting strategies. They formed tight-knit communities based on cooperation and mutual support, recognizing that their survival depended on their ability to work together. But for all their resourcefulness, prehistoric humans were not immune to suffering. Disease, injury, and death were ever-present realities, casting a shadow over even the most prosperous of communities. The loss of a loved one, the pain of a debilitating injury, the anguish of hunger and thirst. These were experiences shared by all members of early human societies. As our ancestors began to settle into more permanent communities and develop rudimentary forms of agriculture, new forms of suffering emerged. The transition to agriculture brought with it new challenges, from the backbreaking labor of tilling the soil to the uncertainties of crop failure and famine. Social hierarchies began to take shape, leading to inequalities in access to resources and opportunities. And as human populations grew and communities expanded, conflicts over territory, resources, and status became increasingly common. In examining the dawn of human suffering, it is important to recognize the profound impact it has had on the course of human history. The struggles of our ancestors laid the groundwork for the development of complex societies, technologies, and institutions that have shaped the world we inhabit today. And while the nature of suffering may have evolved over time, its fundamental role in shaping the human experience remains as potent as ever. Chapter 2. The Agony of Antiquity. As civilizations began to emerge across the globe, so too did the complexities of human suffering. In the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia, Egypt, China, and the Indus Valley, suffering took on myriad forms. From the cruelties of slavery to the horrors of war. Yet amid the darkness, there were also moments of beauty, enlightenment, and transcendence that spoke to the resilience of the human spirit. In ancient Egypt, for example, the pyramids stand as enduring symbols of human ingenuity and achievement, yet they were also built on the backs of thousands of enslaved laborers whose lives were marked by suffering and toil. In Mesopotamia, the Code of Hammurabi sought to codify laws and regulations governing society, yet it also perpetuated systems of inequality and injustice that left many vulnerable to exploitation and abuse. The ancient Greeks and Romans, too, grappled with the complexities of human suffering. From the tragedies of Sophocles and Euripides to the philosophical reflections of Plato and Aristotle, the literature and philosophy of antiquity are replete with meditations on the nature of suffering and its relationship to the human condition. The Stoic philosophers, in particular, emphasized the importance of cultivating inner resilience and fortitude in the face of adversity, arguing that true happiness could be found not in the absence of suffering, but in the ability to endure it with grace and dignity. Yet for all their philosophical insights, the ancient Greeks and Romans were not immune to the realities of human suffering. The conquests of Alexander the Great and the wars of the Roman Empire brought untold devastation and suffering to countless individuals and communities, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. And as the empires of antiquity expanded and contracted, so too did the boundaries of human suffering, encompassing ever greater swaths of the known world. In reflecting on the agony of antiquity, it is important to recognize both the enduring legacies of suffering that continue to shape our world today and the timeless truths and insights that have emerged from the depths of human experience. From the epic struggles of ancient heroes to the quiet moments of courage and compassion that define the human spirit, the ancient world offers a wealth of lessons and reflections on the nature of suffering and its role in shaping the course of human history. Chapter 3: The Dark Ages and Beyond. The fall of the Roman Empire ushered in a period of profound turmoil and uncertainty known as the Dark Ages. In the wake of Rome's collapse, Europe descended into chaos as kingdoms rose and fell, barbarian hordes swept across the continent, and the remnants of classical civilization teetered on the brink of oblivion. It was a time of upheaval, and suffering on a scale not seen since the fall of the Western Roman Empire. For the people of the Dark Ages, life was marked by uncertainty, fear, and deprivation. Famine, disease, and warfare were constant threats as communities struggled to eke out a living amidst the ruins of a once great civilization. The collapse of centralized authority led to a breakdown in law and order, leaving ordinary people vulnerable to exploitation and violence at the hands of marauding bands of raiders and warlords. Yet amid the darkness, there were also moments of resilience, solidarity, and renewal that spoke to the enduring strength of the human spirit. In the monasteries of Europe, monks and nuns preserved the wisdom and knowledge of antiquity, copying manuscripts, tending to the sick and needy, and providing havens of stability and refuge in a world torn apart by chaos and uncertainty. The rise of feudalism, though marked by inequalities and injustices of its own, also brought with it a sense of order and stability that allowed communities to rebuild and regrow in the aftermath of the collapse of Rome. But for all the hardships endured by the people of the Dark Ages, it was also a time of profound spiritual and cultural renewal. The spread of Christianity throughout Europe brought with it a message of hope and redemption that offered solace to the suffering and oppressed. The construction of magnificent cathedrals and monasteries, the creation of breathtaking works of art and literature, and the emergence of new forms of religious devotion and expression all served to uplift and inspire a people struggling to find meaning and purpose in a world racked by suffering and uncertainty. In reflecting on the Dark Ages and beyond, it is important to recognize the enduring legacies of suffering that continue to shape our world today, from the echoes of ancient conflicts to the struggles of ordinary people to survive and thrive amidst the ruins of a once great civilization. The legacy of the Dark Ages serves as a poignant reminder of the resilience, strength, and resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. Chapter 4. The Age of Enlightenment and its Discontents. The Enlightenment was a period of intellectual ferment, social upheaval, and political revolution that fundamentally transformed the course of human history. The Enlightenment was a period of intellectual ferment, social upheaval, and political revolution that fundamentally transformed the course of human history. Emerging in the 17th and 18th centuries, the Enlightenment marked a shift away from traditional sources of authority, such as religion and monarchy, towards a greater emphasis on reason, science, and individual liberty. Central to the Enlightenment project was the belief in the power of human reason to uncover the truths of the natural world and to improve the human condition. Thinkers such as John Locke, Voltaire, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau challenged the prevailing notions of divine right and absolute monarchy, advocating instead for principles of democracy, tolerance, and human rights. Yet, for all its aspirations to emancipate humanity from ignorance and superstition, the Enlightenment was also marked by contradictions and limitations. Many of its leading figures, including Locke and Rousseau, held views on race, gender, and colonialism that were deeply problematic by modern standards. Moreover, the promise of universal enlightenment and progress remained elusive for many as inequalities persisted and new forms of oppression emerged to take the place of the old. In examining the Enlightenment and its discontents, it is important to acknowledge both its achievements and its failures. On the one hand, the Enlightenment laid the groundwork for the modern world, inspiring revolutions in America, France, and beyond that, sought to establish new forms of government based on principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. On the other hand, the Enlightenment also gave rise to new forms of oppression and exploitation as the forces of capitalism, imperialism, and colonialism unleashed untold suffering on millions of people around the globe. One of the key legacies of the Enlightenment was its impact on the concept of suffering itself. Whereas previous generations had often viewed suffering as a natural and inevitable part of the human condition, Enlightenment thinkers sought to challenge this fatalistic worldview by emphasizing the role of human agency in shaping the course of history. Through education, reason, and the spread of scientific knowledge, they believed humanity could overcome the forces of ignorance, superstition, and oppression that had long held it back. Yet even as the Enlightenment promised to liberate humanity from the shackles of ignorance and superstition, it also gave rise to new forms of suffering and exploitation. The spread of capitalism and the Industrial Revolution, in particular, led to widespread social dislocation, environmental degradation, and economic inequality that left millions of people marginalized and impoverished. Moreover, the Enlightenment's emphasis on reason and rationality often came at the expense of other forms of knowledge and understanding, leading to a narrow and reductionistic view of the human experience. Indigenous cultures, for example, were often dismissed as primitive and backward, while women, people of color, and other marginalized groups were excluded from the benefits of enlightenment and progress. In reflecting on the legacy of the Enlightenment, it is important to recognize both its achievements and its limitations. While the Enlightenment undoubtedly brought about profound changes in the way that humanity viewed itself and its place in the world, it also gave rise to new forms of suffering and injustice that continue to shape our world today. As we look to the future, it is incumbent upon us to learn from the mistakes of the past and to strive for a more inclusive, equitable, and compassionate society that honors the dignity and worth of all people, regardless of race, gender, or social status. Chapter 5. Modernity and its discontents. The advent of modernity heralded a new era of unprecedented technological advancement and economic growth. From the Industrial Revolution to the age of globalization, the modern world has been marked by rapid change and innovation, transforming the way that people live, work, and relate to one another. Yet for all its promise and potential, modernity has also been accompanied by profound social, economic, and environmental challenges that have given rise to new forms of suffering and injustice. The rise of capitalism, in particular, has led to widespread inequality, exploitation, and environmental degradation that have left millions of people marginalized and impoverished. One of the key features of modernity is its emphasis on progress and development as the primary goals of human society. From the Enlightenment philosophers to the proponents of neoliberalism, modern thinkers have celebrated the virtues of growth and innovation as the keys to human flourishing. Yet this obsession with progress has often come at the expense of other values, such as sustainability, equity, and social justice, leading to a world in which the benefits of modernity are unevenly distributed and the costs are borne disproportionately by the most vulnerable members of society. Moreover, the relentless pursuit of growth and profit has led to the commodification of almost every aspect of human life, from healthcare and education to the natural environment itself. As corporations seek to maximize their profits at all costs, they often prioritize short-term gains over the long-term well-being of people and the planet, leading to a cycle of boom and bust that leaves communities devastated in its wake. In examining the discontents of modernity, it is important to recognize the ways in which the pursuit of progress and development has often led to unintended consequences that exacerbate human suffering. From the displacement of indigenous peoples and the destruction of their lands to the exploitation of workers and the degradation of their labor, modernity has brought with it a host of social and environmental injustices that cry out for redress. Yet even as we confront the challenges of modernity, it is also important to acknowledge the ways in which it has improved the lives of millions of people around the world. From advances in medicine and technology to the spread of democratic ideals and human rights, modernity has brought about profound changes in the way that people live and interact with one another, opening up new possibilities for human flourishing and well-being. As we look to the future, it is incumbent upon us to build a more just, equitable, and sustainable world that honors the dignity and worth of all people, regardless of race, gender, or social status. This will require us to confront the root causes of suffering and injustice, to challenge the prevailing norms and values of modern society, and to work together to create a world in which all people have the opportunity to live full, meaningful, and fulfilling lives. Chapter 6. The Global Age of Suffering. The 20th century witnessed the rise of totalitarianism, genocide, and global conflict on an unprecedented scale. From the horrors of 2 world wars to the atrocities of the Holocaust and the killing fields of Cambodia, the 20th century was marked by untold suffering and human misery on a scale not seen before in human history. The roots of the global age of suffering can be traced back to the rise of nationalism, imperialism, and colonialism in the 19th century, which laid the groundwork for the conflicts and crises that would come to define the 20th century. The scramble for colonies and resources, the competition for global supremacy, and the quest for Lebensraum all fueled a cycle of violence and aggression that would culminate in the cataclysms of the world wars. The First World War, in particular, brought about a level of destruction and suffering that was unprecedented in human history. Millions of soldiers were killed or maimed on the battlefields of Europe, while millions more civilians perished in the crossfire of trench warfare, aerial bombardment, and chemical weapons attacks. The war also unleashed a wave of social and political upheaval that would reshape the map of Europe and the world for decades to come. Yet even as the guns fell silent and the world sought to rebuild in the aftermath of the Great War, the seeds of future conflicts and crises were. The Treaty of Versailles, with its punitive measures against Germany, sowed the seeds of resentment and anger that would eventually give rise to the totalitarian regimes of Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. Meanwhile, the collapse of the Ottoman Empire and the redrawing of the map of the Middle East by the European powers laid the groundwork for the conflicts and crises that continue to plague the region to this day. The Second World War, which followed barely 2 decades later, was even more devastating than the first. From the Holocaust to the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the war unleashed untold suffering and destruction on a scale never before seen in human history. Entire cities were reduced to rubble, millions of people were displaced from their homes, and countless lives were lost in the carnage of battle. But the suffering of the 20th century was not limited to the battlefields of Europe and the Pacific. In the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin's purges and forced collectivization led to the deaths of millions of people, while in China, Mao Zedong's Great Leap Forward and Cultural Revolution unleashed waves of violence and chaos that claimed millions more lives. Meanwhile, in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, the legacy of colonialism and imperialism continued to fuel conflicts and crises that left millions of people impoverished, oppressed, and marginalized. The end of the Second World War brought with it a new era of hope and optimism as the victorious powers sought to build a more peaceful and prosperous world through the establishment of international institutions such as the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. Yet the promise of a new world order was soon overshadowed by the realities of the Cold War, which divided the world into rival blocs and fueled a series of proxy conflicts and interventions that left millions of people caught in the crossfire. Moreover, the post-war period was marked by the persistence of old forms of suffering and injustice, from racial segregation in the United States to apartheid in South Africa. The struggle for civil rights and social justice became defining issues of the era, as people around the world mobilized to challenge the prevailing norms and values of the day. In examining the global age of suffering, it is important to recognize the ways in which the events of the 20th century continue to shape our world today. From the legacies of colonialism and imperialism to the ongoing conflicts and crises in the Middle East, Africa, and beyond, the 20th century has left an indelible mark on the course of human history. Yet even as we confront the challenges of the present, it is also important to remember the resilience, courage, and compassion of the countless individuals and communities who have refused to be defined by suffering. From the survivors of war and genocide to the activists and organizers working tirelessly for social justice and human rights, the global age of suffering has also been a time of profound solidarity and resistance as people around the world have come together to build a better future for themselves and for generations to come. Chapter 7. Toward a Future of Hope. As we bring our journey through the long history of human suffering to a close, it is important to reflect on the lessons we have learned and the possibilities that lie ahead. For too long, suffering has been a defining feature of the human experience, shaping the course of history and leaving millions of people marginalized, oppressed, and impoverished. Yet even in the darkest of times, there have always been moments of hope, resilience, and transformation that point the way towards a brighter future. In our exploration of human suffering and the pursuit of a hopeful future, it's crucial to recognize the profound influence of diverse spiritual traditions, particularly those originating from the rich tapestry of Asian philosophies. Alongside Hinduism, Buddhism stands as a profound source of wisdom in understanding suffering and the journey towards liberation. Emerging from the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha, Buddhism offers profound insights into the nature of suffering and the path to transcendence. Central to Buddhist teachings is the concept of dukkha, often translated as suffering, which encompasses not only physical pain, but also the inherent unsatisfactoriness and impermanence of all conditioned phenomena. According to Buddhism, the root cause of suffering lies in attachment and craving, the relentless desire for things to be different from how they are. Through the cessation of craving and the cultivation of wisdom and compassion, individuals can attain liberation from suffering and achieve a state of profound peace and contentment known as nirvana. Buddhism also emphasizes the importance of mindfulness and meditation as means of cultivating awareness and insight into the nature of suffering and the workings of the mind. By observing the transient and impermanent nature of thoughts, emotions, and sensations, individuals can develop a deeper understanding of the underlying causes of suffering and cultivate a sense of inner peace and equanimity amidst life's challenges. Moreover, Buddhism offers profound insights into the nature of reality and the interconnectedness of all phenomena. The teaching of interdependence, or pratityasamutpada, emphasizes the interconnectedness of all beings and the web of causality that binds together the fabric of existence. This recognition of non-duality challenges the illusion of separateness and invites individuals to cultivate compassion and empathy towards all sentient beings, recognizing the inherent interconnectedness and interdependence of life. Incorporating the wisdom of traditions like Buddhism into our collective efforts to address human suffering can deepen our understanding and inform our approach to fostering a future of hope and possibility. By embracing the teachings of mindfulness, compassion, and interdependence, we can cultivate a deeper sense of connection with ourselves, with others, and with the world around us. Through practices such as meditation, self-inquiry, and ethical living, we can transcend the limitations of egoic consciousness and awaken to the boundless potential of our true nature. In this way, we can work together to create a world where suffering is minimized and all beings can flourish in harmony and peace. One of the key lessons of our journey is the importance of solidarity and collective action in the face of suffering. Time and again, we have seen how ordinary people coming together to support one another and to challenge the prevailing injustices of the day can make a real difference in the lives of millions of people around the world. Whether through grassroots movements for social justice, international campaigns for human rights, or acts of kindness and compassion in our own communities, we have the power to create a world where suffering is not merely endured, but actively confronted and overcome. Another lesson of our journey is the importance of recognizing the interconnectedness of human suffering. From the slave trade to the climate crisis, the forces of oppression and exploitation that have fueled suffering in one part of the world have often had far-reaching consequences that extend far beyond national borders and boundaries. In an increasingly interconnected world, we can no longer afford to turn a blind eye to the suffering of others, nor can we afford to think of ourselves as separate from the wider web of life on this planet. Only by recognizing our shared humanity and our shared responsibility to care for one another and for the world we inhabit can we hope to build a future of hope and possibility for all. Yet even as we confront the challenges of the present, it is important to remain hopeful about the possibilities that lie ahead. Throughout history, human beings have demonstrated an incredible capacity for resilience, creativity, and innovation in the face of adversity. From the scientific breakthroughs that have transformed our understanding of the universe to the social movements that have challenged the prevailing norms and values of society, we have the tools and the knowledge we need to build a better world for ourselves and for future generations. In the end, the long history of human suffering is a testament to the resilience and perseverance of the human spirit. Despite the countless challenges and adversities we have faced throughout history, we have continued to strive for a better world, to imagine new possibilities, and to work together to create a future of hope and possibility for all. As we look to the future, it is incumbent upon us to heed the lessons of the past and to build upon the achievements and insights of those who have come before us. This will require us to confront the root causes of suffering and injustice, to challenge the prevailing norms and values of society, and to work together across borders and boundaries to create a world that honors the dignity and worth of all people, regardless of race, gender, or social status. It will also require us to recognize the interconnectedness of human suffering and to take collective action to address the systemic injustices and inequalities that perpetuate it. Whether through advocacy, activism, or everyday acts of kindness and compassion, each of us has a role to play in creating a world where suffering is not merely endured, but actively confronted and overcome. In the end, the long history of human suffering reminds us of the resilience, courage, and compassion that lie at the heart of the human experience. It is a testament to our shared humanity and our shared capacity to create a future of hope and possibility for all. As we continue on our journey through life, may we draw inspiration from the struggles and triumphs of those who have come before us, and may we remain steadfast in our commitment to building a world where suffering is no longer a defining feature of the human condition. As we continue forward, it is essential to acknowledge that the eradication of suffering is not a simple task, nor one that can be accomplished overnight. It requires dedication, perseverance, and a collective commitment to fostering positive change at both individual and societal levels. To embark on this journey, we must cultivate empathy and compassion, recognizing that the experiences of suffering are diverse and multifaceted. By listening to the stories of those who have endured hardship and injustice, we can gain valuable insights into the root causes of suffering and the pathways to healing and resilience. Education also plays a crucial role in addressing human suffering. By fostering critical thinking, empathy, and a deep understanding of history, culture, and society, education empowers individuals to challenge injustice, advocate for change, and build more inclusive and equitable communities. Furthermore, we must strive to create systems and structures that promote justice, equality, and human dignity. This requires dismantling oppressive systems of power and privilege, confronting systemic racism, sexism, homophobia, and other forms of discrimination, and creating opportunities for marginalized communities to thrive. At the same time, we must address the root causes of suffering, including poverty, inequality, environmental degradation, and conflict. This requires a holistic approach that integrates social, economic, political, and environmental solutions, recognizing the interconnectedness of these issues and the need for comprehensive and coordinated action. Ultimately, the journey towards a future of hope requires a collective effort grounded in solidarity, compassion, and a shared vision of a better world. By working together, supporting one another, and advocating for change, we can create a world where suffering is minimized and all people have the opportunity to live fulfilling, dignified lives. As we reflect on the long history of human suffering and the challenges that lie ahead, let us draw inspiration from the resilience, courage, and compassion of those who have come before us. Let us commit ourselves to building a future where suffering is not merely endured, but actively confronted and overcome. And let us hold fast to the belief that through our collective efforts, we can create a world of hope, possibility, and flourishing for all. Continuing on this journey, it's imperative to recognize the importance of fostering resilience and promoting mental health and well-being. In confronting suffering, both past and present, individuals and communities have demonstrated remarkable resilience in the face of adversity. Resilience encompasses the ability to adapt and bounce back from challenges, to find meaning and purpose in difficult circumstances, and to cultivate inner strength and hope. Promoting mental health and well-being is essential in supporting resilience and addressing the psychological impacts of suffering. This involves providing access to mental health services, promoting stigma-free environments where individuals feel safe to seek help, and implementing strategies to build coping skills and emotional resilience. Additionally, fostering a sense of community and belonging is crucial in combating the isolation and alienation that often accompanies suffering. By creating spaces for connection, support, and mutual aid, communities can provide a vital source of strength and solidarity for individuals facing hardship. Moreover, it's essential to address the structural and systemic factors that perpetuate suffering and inequality. This requires challenging power imbalances, advocating for policies that promote social justice and equity, and centering the voices and experiences of marginalized communities in decision-making processes. Environmental sustainability is also closely intertwined with efforts to alleviate suffering. Climate change, pollution, and environmental degradation disproportionately affect the most vulnerable populations, exacerbating existing inequalities and contributing to widespread suffering. By prioritizing sustainability and taking action to protect the planet, we can mitigate the impacts of environmental destruction and build a more resilient and equitable future for all. Finally, fostering a culture of empathy, compassion, and solidarity is essential in creating a world where suffering is acknowledged, addressed, and ultimately minimized. By cultivating empathy for others' experiences, practicing compassion in our interactions, and standing in solidarity with those who are suffering, we can create a more compassionate and caring society where all individuals are valued and supported. As we continue on this journey, let us remain committed to the values of empathy, compassion, and solidarity. By working together, supporting one another, and advocating for change, we can create a future where suffering is minimized, resilience is nurtured, and all individuals have the opportunity to thrive. Continuing our exploration, it's important to recognize that the journey toward alleviating human suffering is ongoing and multifaceted. Each individual, community, and society must play a part in this collective endeavor. One crucial aspect of addressing suffering is fostering resilience and mental well-being. Building resilience equips individuals with the tools to cope with adversity, bounce back from challenges, and maintain emotional equilibrium in the face of hardship. This can be achieved through access to mental health services, supportive social networks, and opportunities for personal growth and development. Furthermore, addressing systemic injustices requires structural change at both local and global levels. This entails advocating for policies that promote equity, justice, and human rights, as well as challenging oppressive systems that perpetuate inequality and marginalization. By amplifying the voices of marginalized communities and centering their experiences in decision-making processes, we can work towards a more just and equitable society. In addition to addressing existing sources of suffering, we must also confront emerging challenges that threaten human well-being, such as climate change, pandemics, and technological disruption. These complex and interconnected issues require innovative solutions that prioritize sustainability, resilience, and social cohesion. By investing in renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and disaster preparedness, we can mitigate the impacts of environmental degradation and ensure a more secure future for generations to come. Moreover, fostering a culture of empathy and compassion is essential for building a more caring and inclusive society. By cultivating understanding, empathy, and mutual respect, we can bridge divides, foster cooperation, and build stronger, more resilient communities. This involves promoting dialogue, empathy, and understanding across lines of difference and challenging prejudice, discrimination, and bigotry wherever they arise. Ultimately, the journey toward a future of hope requires a collective commitment to values of justice, compassion, and solidarity. By working together, supporting one another, and advocating for change, we can create a world where suffering is minimized and all people have the opportunity to live meaningful, fulfilling lives. As we reflect on the long history of human suffering and the challenges that lie ahead, let us draw inspiration from the resilience, courage, and compassion of those who have come before us. Let us commit ourselves to building a future where suffering is not merely endured, but actively confronted and overcome. And let us hold fast to the belief that through our collective efforts, we can create a world of hope, possibility, and flourishing for all. Our journey towards a future of hope, it's important to acknowledge that progress often comes with setbacks and challenges. However, it is precisely during these difficult times that our resilience and determination are put to the test. One crucial aspect of our ongoing efforts is the importance of education and awareness. By raising awareness about the root causes of suffering and inequality, we can empower individuals to become agents of change in their communities. Education is not only about imparting knowledge, but also about fostering critical thinking, empathy, and a sense of responsibility towards others. Building strong social support systems is essential for addressing and alleviating suffering. This includes access to healthcare, social services, and community resources that can provide assistance to those in need. By strengthening social bonds and networks, we can create a sense of belonging and solidarity that helps individuals navigate through difficult times. Another important aspect of our journey is the need for systemic change. This involves challenging existing power structures and advocating for policies that promote social justice and equality. It requires us to confront institutionalized discrimination, dismantle barriers to opportunity, and create inclusive spaces where everyone has a voice and a seat at the table. Fostering a culture of compassion and empathy is essential for building a more caring and interconnected society. This involves not only recognizing the humanity in others, but also actively seeking to understand their experiences and perspectives. By fostering empathy and compassion, we can break down barriers, bridge divides, and build stronger, more resilient communities. At the heart of our journey towards a future of hope lies the belief that change is possible and that each of us has a role to play in shaping a better world. Whether through acts of kindness and solidarity in our daily lives or through advocacy and activism on a larger scale, we all have the power to make a difference. On this journey, let us draw inspiration from the countless individuals and communities who have dedicated their lives to alleviating suffering and building a more just and compassionate world. Let us hold fast to the belief that, by working together with empathy, courage, and determination, we can create a future where suffering is minimized and all people have the opportunity to thrive. As we continue our journey toward a future of hope, it's imperative to recognize the importance of addressing the underlying systemic issues that perpetuate human suffering. These issues are often deeply ingrained in social, economic, and political structures, and tackling them requires sustained effort and commitment. One critical aspect of this endeavor is the promotion of economic justice and equitable distribution of resources. Economic inequality lies at the root of much suffering around the world, depriving individuals and communities of basic necessities and opportunities for growth. By advocating for policies that ensure fair wages, access to healthcare, education, and social services, we can work towards creating a more just and equitable society where everyone has the chance to thrive. We must confront the structural inequalities that intersect with race, gender, sexuality, and other identity markers. Discrimination and prejudice continue to marginalize and oppress certain groups, exacerbating their vulnerability to suffering and injustice. It's essential to actively challenge systemic discrimination, promote diversity and inclusion, and amplify the voices of marginalized communities in decision-making processes. Environmental sustainability is another critical dimension of our journey toward a hopeful future. Climate change, pollution, deforestation, and other environmental challenges not only threaten the health and well-being of communities around the world, but also exacerbate existing social and economic inequalities. By adopting sustainable practices, investing in renewable energy, and protecting natural resources, we can mitigate the impacts of environmental degradation and build a more resilient future for all. Furthermore, fostering a culture of empathy, kindness, and solidarity is essential for creating strong and cohesive communities. Acts of compassion and mutual support can provide comfort and relief to those experiencing suffering and hardship, while also fostering a sense of belonging and connection among individuals. Building strong social bonds and networks helps create a sense of collective responsibility for one another's well-being, leading to more resilient and supportive communities. As we navigate the complexities of our world and strive for a future of hope, it's important to remain vigilant and adaptable and incorporate mindful awareness into each and every moment. Challenges will inevitably arise and setbacks may occur, but by remaining committed to our shared values of justice, compassion, and equality, we can overcome adversity and continue moving forward. Each of us has a role to play in this ongoing journey, and together we can create a world where suffering is minimized and all people have the opportunity to live with dignity, security, fulfillment, authentic purpose, joy, and peace. Let us guide one another on our path of self-discovery, realization, actualizatio, and spiritual evolution, incorporating the ever-evolving sciences, and continuously seeking the great teachers of the world. May this exploration serve as the North Star, illuminating the way forward as we navigate the mysteries of existence with wisdom, grace, and compassion. We hope you enjoy this book and can use it to reference time and time again. Thank you for receiving our gift of the heart. May we all be well. May we all be happy. May we all be wise.